What is up guys, Mobbin here, and today it's kind of a different video. I'm going to try my best to explain and how to reproduce a remote chunk loader that was found in test 137E29's video because it's a little confusing and took a while to figure out, and a lot of the comments people didn't understand. So my goal here is to explain how to use it. So let's hop right into it. So first I want to talk about spawn chunks. So every red pad is a chunk, and same with the sandstone. So this red outline is what's known as the spawn chunks, which is a 13 by 13 chunk, 13 by 13 chunks in your world where it's always loaded no matter what. And then two chunks out of that, the purple and sandstone, are lazy chunks, which means they're loaded but they don't process anything. I think for the most part, it's a really big new concept, and I'm just trying to help people understand this better. So when you have something in your spawn chunks, it's always loaded. Like a clock, you could have like a command output that's always saying something, and even if you're all the way like on the 50,000 blocks away, it will still put output. So the problem is, say you have a chunk all the way over there that needs to be loaded for some reason. I don't know, there's so many reasons why you need to load a chunk, but say you need it to load a chunk all the way over there, but it's not in the spawn chunks. So how do you, basically the question is, how do you load that chunk? And that's what I'm going to answer today. So first off, what you could do is there's this really cool trick. So if we hop over here, you see that there's a lazy chunk. And so this lazy chunk, at the very corner of the lazy chunk, if you have a hopper pointing into another chunk with an item in it, it will make this chunk always like updated. So this chunk is now a spawn chunk. So we pushed the hopper facing into the chunk, and now this chunk's become updated. And then we do this again, and then this chunk becomes updated. And you guys get the idea. So, but what if we want to do this, but 30,000 blocks away? We're not going to want to go each chunk and build this thing and take it all the way out there, right? So Tess came up with a genius idea. So the reason why we're doing this trick is because we have to load the coordinates 0, 0. So 0, 0 are very, very important for this thing to work. So when 0, 0 is loaded, or the goal is to load 0, 0. And so when you have a chunk that you're being loaded, like so this, you say you're loading this chunk, it will not be able to do what a spawn chunk does unless there's a 5 by 5 chunks loaded in the general area, and this is the middle chunk. Then it can process with like command blocks and do whatever you want. But if you just load this chunk and I put something, nothing's gonna work. So what we do here is around the 0, 0, so this is the 0, 0 coordinate, this right rule, we load a 5 by 5 area, which is all the redstone blocks. So if I go higher, let me try to explain this a little bit better. So we take this chunk, the lazy chunk, and put a hopper and make it go into the next chunk, which goes in the next one, next one, next one, next one. And then once we get to here, we load by having hoppers face different directions and load all of these chunks. So it starts out here. So if I hop down here, we have a hopper pointing into this chunk. So now this chunk is loaded. We have a hopper pointing into this chunk that's in this new loaded chunk. So now this is loaded. And then we do the same thing over here. So now this chunk is loaded. So basically we have a nice 5 by 5 area. So now this could process redstone. So if I turn this on and I don't teleport, but I just fly all the way over here, and let me turn my render distance down. So if I fly all the way to the other side of the map, let me just put myself in game mode 3 so I could go faster. If I go all the way over here in this other very corner, I can't see that. That is no longer loaded, but I'm making it loaded with a chunk loader. So you keep the comments will, as far as I go, it will still continue to load, which is something really cool. So now the flaw with this concept is if you want to make a chunk loader 30,000 blocks away, you're not going to want to do this, right? It's just going to be such a pain to dig it out. So I'm going to explain how to fix it. So right now we are in the chunk that houses the point 0, 0. It's right here on the edge of this chunk. So what we've done so far is take the spawn chunks and loaded this with a 5 by 5 spawn chunk loaded around it, or not spawn chunks, but chunks loaded around it, which have made this an entity processing chunk. So now what we're going to do is we're going to teleport to the coordinates 15,000 and 15,000. So that's really far away. So we're going to teleport here, and I have another command block set up, says I'm a loading chunk. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have to build a simple mechanism, which is the coolest thing I've ever found out, and it uses a concept of arrows. So if I grab a little bit of materials, let's see, we need a repeater and we need a piston, and then we should be good. Oops, and a lever actually. But so basically, if we build this device, so you can see right now we're still super far away and the 0, 0 is loaded. So if I build a mechanism that looks like this, so we have a dispenser pointing to a slab with a piston, another block behind it with a lever and a repeater, and we put an arrow into here, what's going to happen is the arrow is going to get fired out into the slab, and when it's fired into the slab, it creates a glitch. So what happens is the arrow is now, like, the game doesn't know what coordinates it's at, so it teleports the arrow to 0, 0. So that's why we loaded 0, 0, so now the arrow could teleport. So if we do this, we're going to now notice that the arrow's gone. So what do we do is if we turn this on, which says I'm a loading chunk, so it's going to continue playing that. We're going to teleport all the way back to like around 0, 0. And now if we see, the loading chunk is still going to pop up. So there it goes. So now we are 15,000 blocks away. And if we, the reason 0, 0 is so important, because if we go down the very last block, look at that arrow. The arrow that teleported into the slab lost its number. The game lost where it's at. It's not a number, and it teleported to 0, 0. So now that chunk all the way out there is now loaded, and that's why we need to have 0, 0 loaded. Or because at the end, if the arrow teleported, this would have never been loaded and nothing would have worked. And also, the cool thing, this arrow never despawns. So I know that's a lot to take into account, and I'm gonna try to summarize it in a second. So if you want to build this in your world, sorry about that, you're going to have to locate the spawn chunks. And to locate the spawn chunks, there's tools online, or you could do it the old-fashioned way, but the old-fashioned way is really tough. So preferably if you get the seed, you could tell the spawn chunks. And I'll leave a program in the description that will help you out with that. And then you got to mark out the lazy chunks, which are 2 chunks beyond the spawn chunks, and then mark that all the way around. And now you're going to want to take the lazy chunk, the very most corner one, and you're going to want to build this mechanism until you go to 0, 0. So you're going to have a hopper facing in with redstone dust into the next chunk. And then once you get to 0, 0, you're going to want to make sure you have a 5x5 loaded around it with this one loaded in the middle. So now it can do the redstone stuff. And then once you have that done, so this is the first step. Once you have this loaded, next you're going to have to go to where you want to do the build. So, you know, that could be like, for example, I chose 15,000 and 15,000, but you could really do it, you know, wherever you wanted to. But first you're going to have to go to that chunk, and you're going to have to build this mechanism. So I'll build it one more time really quickly. A block, you have a dispenser, a slab, you're going to need a piston and a lever and an arrow, and then that's all you need. And now this chunk will stay loaded forever. So arrow, piston, repeater, lever, hit it. Okay, it's gone, the arrow's gone. And now once we leave this, it will still be loaded. And the cool thing is, if you log out and log back in, it will still work, which is something really cool. And so that's the concept. If you guys have any questions, I will make sure to answer your questions in the comments below. And also, I'm going to talk to you about a few, or not even, maybe just one restriction on this thing. There's only one downside to this, is that it can't be built more than 32,768 blocks from 0, 0. So, I mean, I don't really see the point of building it more than, like, you don't really build out more than 32,000 blocks. So if you're within 32,000 blocks of 0, 0, you could build this, and it will work. And it works currently on 1.8.1 pre-release 3, and make sure you check the description because I will keep updating it with every snapshot or final version to make sure it still works. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, can you please leave a thumbs up and let me know what you thought. And sorry if there's a little confusion. I mean, I'm just trying to make you guys understand it in the most basic way. And give a big thanks to Test137E29 for finding this out, and I check out his video in the description. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video, so if you have any last comments, please let me know and I will gladly answer them. But anyways guys, I'm on Minecraft and I am out.